All right, we on. Head butts and slow blinks, good people. It's your boy Sterling, Trap King Davis, and my sister from another mister.
I'm Shannon Jackson, and we are the Same Team podcast.
One of these days we're gonna say that and it's gonna be all in unison. It's gonna
I
be
know. I know. We never practice. We never
stop.
practice our opening. So I always try to like look at your face to see when you're gonna say my name to say my name, but oh well, we'll get it eventually.
I don't even want to practice. I want it to just happen one episode and
Naturally.
like, oh
yeah. I know. Last week it was like pod.
Right.
I liked it though.
So it's been a wild week, been a interesting, busy week. But today, we want to talk about, well, like this, if y'all saw the subject, the title, we talking about basically, I want to do it my way, so I'm going off on my own. A lot of times in cat rescue period, animal welfare, and I've seen this coming from just traveling around different cities, different rescue groups, different shelters. And I see a lot of times, a lot of people come from one big organization. It's like one organization at a start. Everybody came together to start that one. And then people want to do things differently or do things on their own. So they branch off. To start their own thing, their own nonprofit, their own rescue group. And a lot of times, the reason I wanted to bring it up is because a lot of times it's probably not the move to start another nonprofit, to start your own thing. Or maybe because a lot of times those groups will branch off and they're doing the same thing that other organization is doing. If everybody's doing the same thing, then how effective is that? If we kind of pulling from the same resources, pulling the same donations. And I see that a lot. And I think it could probably be a better process to it. And on top of that, if you're thinking about getting started with a nonprofit, do you need to be a nonprofit? Like,
right.
Me and Shannon was talking about that earlier. And it's like, sometimes, is that what you even need? A lot of us just jump in it, and you may not need to do that, or you may need to take some steps before you get to that point, right?
Yeah, a lot of people just jump in it like I did, although my nonprofit was not a rescue. Like a lot of people will, like what Sterling was just saying about, people that are coming from one rescue and want to do their own thing. I started a nonprofit because I wanted to fundraise, and it's almost like because I wanted people to know that I wasn't keeping the money for myself, because I want to give it to animal welfare organizations. But I ended up dissolving my nonprofit because I didn't need to have a nonprofit, but I didn't know that there was too much. It was actually deterring me from doing the things that I wanted to do with the skills that I have. It was making it so I was creating all these roadblocks for myself, because people don't realize a lot of times what goes into actually having a nonprofit. I just went and Googled, like, how do you start a nonprofit in Florida? And then I made the Smush Foundation, which is now I just do things as myself. And like, if I want to fundraise directly, which is, I'm really good at fundraising. And then I was just like, oh, I can just fundraise directly and not have to touch the money. But before, I was stressed all the time because I didn't realize. I was always worried I was going to go to prison, which, I mean, I'm not going to prison, but like, please don't put me in prison. Like Orange is the New Black, I'll have some wives in there, like, but like what's, but it's true though. Like, it's like Sterling, like we were just talking before we came on here about, with the nonprofit aspect of any kind of, anybody can start a nonprofit, but a lot of people don't realize once you actually get that nonprofit certification or whatever, like what it actually means and what goes into that. So a lot of times it would probably be better to do a lot more research or maybe talk to someone else that actually had one or has one now to see like it, because it,
I would
yeah,
I would definitely say you got to talk to somebody, do some research. I would even say if you could sit in on some board meetings and understand, because
yeah,
like with Shannon, like what you said, for me, when I got started, I didn't even know or understand it. I
yeah,
started it out of fear, because at first I started an
yes,
LLC,
mm-hmm,
and I was like, okay, and people were like, okay, how are you going to have an LLC and you're not going to charge to do the TNR? So you need to raise funds and donate. You need to get donations to do this. And then
mm-hmm,
somebody told me, well, hey, nobody's going to donate to you unless you're a nonprofit. You got to start a nonprofit. So I dissolved that LLC, then I started a nonprofit, and everything was just coming at me. Like, I'm thinking I'm just going to start a nonprofit. I can get out here and rescue cats, but it's so much to that. And
yeah,
then you have to understand what it is you really want to do and what you're trying to do, where you can be effective at, before you just jump out there and start that. But I see so many people and I hear so many people like, okay, I'm about to start a nonprofit. I'm gonna get out here. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do adoptions and fosters, and we're gonna do a little TNR. And already you kind of kicking yourself in the butt, because that's a lot of hats just
mm-hmm,
starting out. I tell people a lot, you probably should start with one thing. Try to focus on one area that you're really good at, and focus in on that before
yeah.
you just try to jump and put on so many hats, because it's a lot more than you think.
Yeah,
I've woo,
personally. Yeah. It's
I've
interesting
heard
when you said
stories.
that, Sterling, too, about how people will just, oh, that I'm going to do some, fostering and adoption and all this stuff. But I do think that a lot of times people put the cart before the horse, so to speak. It's like, because those are the things that most of the time people are familiar with doing. But like having a nonprofit, that's why people have boards to govern the nonprofit. But that's another thing too, because you can't, like, I did it wrong. All of the people on my board were friends of mine within animal welfare, but
Right.
still, like, that's really not how it should be. You shouldn't have friends and family members on your board. You should have people that are experts in whatever field, or it's almost like, if I could go back, first off, if I could go back and do it again, I wouldn't start one. Like,
Right.
there was no reason for me. Like, I can do so much more now without it. Because I don't have to worry. I don't have to worry about, I'm gonna click the wrong box or do something wrong, or I mean, I called the IRS because I'm like, what do well, I don't know what to do.
What's going on?
I know, but I do think that a lot of times people, it's all good intentions. It's all good intentions. Nobody's, I mean, most of the time, I mean, hopefully nobody's
Right.
starting a nonprofit to like take the money, which that's a whole other, people do that stuff. So
People do
be
that, but
careful. Be
if
careful who you donate to. Be careful who you donate to. Go look at, what's the website where you can look up the nonprofit? Because I had like a star on mine.
it's
I forget.
called
You know what I'm talking about,
I know
right?
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's when people do Giving Tuesday. I can't remember what it's called, but
Oh,
it is a site for that. It is
yeah.
a site for that. But that's the thing. Like, a lot of times, I think people just don't have any idea what they doing, where they going. They just wanna. You thinking you want to help, but you probably
Yeah.
don't even need to be a nonprofit. And I think, and this is something too. I'm gonna say this too. I think there's another level to it. There's another ground level of people that's doing rescue that's not even at that nonprofit level. They're not in a position to do that. I think a lot of grants, when they put them certain stipulations on there, it hurts. It hurts some of, I think, probably not only the diversity, but the ability for a lot of people on the ground to do it, because they can't get to the funds. If you have to, when you say this grant is available and you have to be a nonprofit, then you got people rushing out getting into stuff they probably don't have no business getting into, but they need the food, they need the traps,
Hmm.
they need the resources. But that's why I say, before you jump out there and start that just to get a grant, consider some things. I know one of the things that I've told some people to consider when you going out starting a nonprofit is look at, you know, about a 10, 15, maybe 20-mile radius of other rescue groups or nonprofits that's doing what you're doing. You know, who's doing exactly what you're
Mhm.
doing near you. And if it's three other groups doing what you're doing, what you're about to do, you probably shouldn't do that, at least not in that area, because you know you are going to pull from the same resources. You're doing the same thing. It's almost like competing versus working together. If you got three TNR groups right by you, you should probably be the foster or adopter, you know.
Mhm.
And those are
Yeah.
some things to think about as well. Like with start, a lot of times we just jump out there and be like, I'm getting started. That's cool, but are you the fourth adopter person in this area? You
Right.
know.
Yeah, that's a good point too, because we have a bunch of rescues here in Alachua County, Florida. And actually we have less now because a couple years ago, our a bunch of our rescues got together, the smaller rescues got together with our the main rescue, which was at the time it was Alachua County I think Humane Society, and now it's North Florida Humane Society. But all the boards came together and they realized that, hey, we all have the same mission and we can be more powerful coming together, which is amazing because now there was Gainesville Pet Rescue, which is now part of Humane Society. And it's really amazing to see because now like the Humane Society here is just so much bigger than all these little rescues. And so, and a lot of the staff merged together and they have more employees now because they have more resources, they can get more grants, and they're doing amazing things. Like they're doing amazing things. And it's been really cool to see because I started out volunteering with one of the small rescues that ended up merging. And so it's just it's been that's that's where it's kind of like, okay, like there's all these people together having the same mission. What's going to be better for the animals?
Right.
It's if we can merge together, if we have the same mission. And so I've really been I don't know, it's been really cool to see that because of all of the issues within animal welfare in general, because if the people like fighting and stuff, but it's this is like a positive story when you know they all came together and now it's just it's amazing. And then they work with Operation Catnip, which that's our local TNR. So it's cool because we have a very specific TNR organization here, and then they do, and they're about to get their own building, which is amazing. They're doing all these renovations. I'll bring Big Smush in there because anybody who follows me knows that like I take Big Smush, and that's since Smush doesn't travel, this is how I volunteer, you know. So I don't need a nonprofit for that. I just have to have myself and my abilities, and I'll go in there and be the crazy lady with, you know, the big cat like walking around,
Right.
you know.
Right.
But it's
But
really
that's your
cool.
thing, though.
It is, but I didn't need a nonprofit for that because I can fundraise because I'm really good at fundraising and I really enjoy it because these are passions that I believe in. And before I would be, you know, oh, I'm going to fundraise for Operation Catnip, but then I would just turn around and give the money to them. I'm like, why can't I just fundraise directly for them rather than, and I don't have to touch the money, which is amazing because I am not like, I'm a creative person through and through. Money, like remember we were trying to figure out like a negative, by the way, a negative times a positive is a negative, Sterling. I looked it up.
Damn.
You put me on the spot last week. I'm like, dude, that was like
Well, I put myself on the spot because I was
I
thinking,
know.
do I want to
I
say
looked it
something I
up.
don't know for sure?
I know. I know. But anyway, it's just it's so we have locally, we have, you know, we have our TNR organization, and then we have um all of these different cat and dog, and now they take bunnies now. They had a horse recently. It's really cool. Like I remember the director, I
That's
saw
dope.
her on Facebook. She had like a mini horse that somehow got turned into the Humane Society that was on her desk or something. So Heather, if you're out there, I'm shouting out that horse that was on your
Salute
desk.
to heaven for that.
Heather's a horse
Amazing
lady.
ball.
So but anyway, of course the horse was on her desk. But it's just been really cool to see because there's so many more people now at the Humane Society, and then they work with Operation Catnip with the cats. So it's like there's a specific place for people to go with dogs and cats, and then they also do they have a low cost community clinic there too. So it's almost like everybody's using their, they've got the rescues, they've got their thing, and they're all coming together and doing that. And it used to be like 3 different organizations, and now it's just this one massive one. And then there's Operation Catnip, and they're focused on the cats. And so it's just, yeah, it's been really cool
That's
to see that.
that's the way it should be. Like people, like when we could come together like that, like I said, that's the opposite of what I was saying. And that's the way I feel like it should be, is coming together more. Because like I said, I see a lot of times where it starts as this and then branches off into a bunch of small groups in the same area. And
Right.
tough, but coming together, that's the way to do it. Cause like you said, Shannon, I don't think that in the grand scheme of things, I don't think that I needed to start a nonprofit. Like, I just didn't know, I didn't have the information or the full understanding of a lot of things, because
Yeah.
I probably could have just gotten with a TNR group that was already established, like found some type of TNR group that was already established and boosted and promoted them. At the
Yeah.
time, I just didn't know. For me, I didn't know any other way. Like, I didn't know a group that was focusing on lower class cats and
Hmm.
diversity as much. Like, a lot of people, a lot of rescues and groups that I was going to was still dog heavy,
Hmm.
or at that time back then, this was before George Floyd and all of this madness in the world. Nobody was really talking about diversity as that much
Right.
back then when I got started. So that's why I felt like I had to jump out there like that, because
Yeah.
I didn't know if there was another group like what I was trying to do. But in the grand scheme of things, my strength, I think, is still with the animals, the cats themselves, and the people, a communicator, rallying the troops, things to that degree. But the paperwork and all of that,
Oh
listen,
no.
listen, it's
Right.
it's that's the
Right.
part, that's the part where
Yeah.
I always say we dive in here with our heart first, thinking the
Right.
animals and rescuing and saving.
Yeah.
Trust me, it's a lot
Yeah.
more to it, and you're gonna have to wear a lot more hats, and you want to have people that's already been wearing those hats or comfortable in those hats before you think you're gonna put all of them on, because it's a lot. It's a
Yeah.
lot.
I think too, like, I know for someone who did the same thing, like put my heart in first and be like, I don't know. And I felt like that was the thing to do. I'm like, I did a fundraiser years ago, and I've spoken about this before. I did a fundraiser for the local shelter medicine program at the University of Florida, because they're all funded by grants and donations. And I'm such a support of them. I love vets. I love shelter. I have a big heart for shelter medicine and shelter vets and those students that are going into that field, because it's hard. I mean, you think all of those people, I love you so much. You all know who you are. Like, anybody who knows me knows that I have all these vet friends, because I wanted to be a vet when I was a kid. And then I'm like, I can't put animals to sleep. So now, now here I am doing things in a more creative way. I don't have to do that, but I want to support those people. But anyway, I did the first fundraiser I ever did was for the shelter medicine program. And I still have that fund there at the university, but I got that fundraising bug where I was like, I'm really good at this, and I really want to use my skills and this, like my communication skills and my voice to try to talk about the things that I care about for animals that are in the shelters, and also the people that help them. So that was a way for me to do that. But I did not need to start my own nonprofit, but I didn't know that. It was kind of like, I didn't want to go online, because for me, I'm I'm doing all these things with an audience that all of the people that follow me and Smush are not here. Like, more, I mean, I have, people know me here in my local community, but I wanted to do something in a bigger way. So I was like, well, let me start my own nonprofit. But I don't need to do that. Like, I can work with anybody I want to as Smush,
Right.
and like I can go fundraise for the things that I care about, but I didn't know. And so when I was starting to feel really overwhelmed with the nonprofit, like the paperwork aspect of it, and just being afraid to do anything, and then I'm always worried I'm going to do something wrong, because with nonprofits there's a lot of rules. It's different if you're just you know, working as yourself if you're taking money or like an LLC, but it's just, I mean, understandable because otherwise, you know, you are a negative person, you know. but but anyway, I think for me, like when I finally decided to dissolve it, I also felt like somehow I had failed in a way, but then I didn't though. I felt such a relief. I think I have a friend that's sort of like a mentor, Jeanette Peters out there. She's like the queen of all. It's like she do lots of different nonprofits and she's a really good at writing grants and stuff. But we had a conversation one day and she's like, Shannon, I'm giving you permission to dissolve this. You don't need to keep doing this, because I just kept feeling all the time like, oh, if I dissolve it, then oh, people are going to think I'm taking money for myself. And I'm like, no, like it's not like that. I mean, it's so stupid. It's just like the things that we put on ourselves, but you have to live and learn sometimes. And so I feel so much freer since then. And if I like, that was when shortly after I had dissolved Smush Foundation was when I did the big fundraiser for Four Paws for Smush's birthday. And we fundraised the heck out of that thing. And I was like off the chain too, because I'm like, I don't have to touch this money. I'm like, donate. And it went right to them. And like, you know, so, and I know what it was going for because, you know, I stipulated that I wanted it to go for the dog and cat meat trade. So it's just, there's so much that you can do without starting it. But then by all means though, if you are in an area that there isn't anything around you, by all means, if you have a heart to start a nonprofit, do it, but do your research first before you get into it, because
research.
And you need help. You can't do it on your own.
Yes, you
Sterling,
can't.
I know you can talk about that. Like you cannot.
Goodness, you can't. And like you said, I was again, you're so afraid of clicking the wrong box.
Oh my God.
Thing. Like it's so
Did click the wrong box on something. Uh-oh, I think we're having a technical difficulty.
Oh, did we freeze up? We did freeze up for a minute. I'm back.
Yeah, I don't know why that's happening. It's all right. This is real life, guys, you know. It still happens. It's all good.
But no, like you said, I was afraid. I was more afraid. And this is when I knew it got crazy. I was more afraid of people's perception of me than I was of what was actually even happening. Like I knew that I wasn't trying to do anything. I can relate to that. Yeah, I knew I wasn't trying to do nothing wrong. I knew I just want to rescue a bunch of animals, but none of that even mattered as much as the perception of me. So I was like, man,
right.
You know, everything that I'm doing for the perception. I hope somebody don't think I'm doing wrong. I'm just trying to prove that what I'm doing is okay versus actually doing it. And that's when it's like, okay, you got to stop and back up. You got to really stop and back up because like we said, some people, oh my goodness, Smush. Like I said, y'all.
Smush is like, you got to stop and back up.
Right. Look at Smush.
Smush, you want to say hi?
Not seeing the video, Smush just jumped in, paid us a visit. One of the executive producers of the show, Smush.
Yes, Smush, she has to come in. She's like, it's all about me.
Right.
It's all about me.
Oh man,
Smush is the face. She knows it. Little diva.
That was I definitely agree because I like the parts that I like wasn't the biggest parts of the nonprofit aspect of it. And like I said, you got a lot of people that's on the ground that probably feel like the only way they can get help is to go that route, but you got to do your research first. You got to, because there are a lot of areas where it's needed and it's not happening, and it's just a matter of somebody rallying the troops and bringing those people that care together to get started. And that's good. I don't want to discourage anybody from doing it, but at the same time, I do want to say, think about some of those things before you just jump out there. Like, are you in the same area with somebody else? Is it just I don't like this person's procedure, so I'm about to go right next door and do the same thing? Like, think about that type of stuff before you get, because we want it, no matter what, it's enough out here for all of us to play our role and be effective, but we don't want to work against each other. Like, that's the last thing we want to be doing.
Yeah. I think that goes back to the whole thing of, I mean, the whole premise of the podcast, same team, that we are all on the same team. But I do think that sometimes people that feel maybe they're not being accepted, or maybe they want to help out and people are just kind of not open to it. I think sometimes that they feel annoyed, or just, well, they're not accepting my help, so I'm going to do my own thing. And I've seen that happen before,
Yeah.
where, and it's, but then again, it goes down to, like, we are more powerful when we work together. So it's like, what would happen if, okay, say I decided I wanted to make a greyhound rescue or something. I'm just using that because I love greyhounds. And there was already a greyhound rescue here, and I went there, and I was just like, well, I was like, oh, I really want to help you. And maybe they didn't like me for whatever reason. They were like, I don't like you. So I'm like, well, I guess I'll just go start my own, because these people, I want to help greyhounds and they want to help greyhounds. And it's like, but they don't want my help. So I guess I'll go do my own. And so it always goes back to the people, because I know a lot of, and I'm just using greyhounds because I love them. And I mean, that didn't really happen. Like, I don't have a greyhound rescue. but it's just kind of like, I think that when people feel that they have something that they want to do, and then they go to the rescue and want to help, then, and if people are in their cliques, or people are just kind of like, I don't know you, it's just, I think that sometimes that happens.
Oh yeah.
And again, it goes back to the people within animal welfare, a lot of times aren't trusting for whatever reason.
Oh
Not
yeah.
always, but it's just, I've seen it happen where this person doesn't like that person, and then so the other person's like, oh, I'm gonna go volunteer at this rescue because these people suck. And it's just, and that's fine, but at the end of the day, it's really about the animals. So even if somebody comes into your rescue and you don't like them, don't shun them, because that's someone who wants to help.
Right, right. And you can guide, like I said, there are ways and areas to help. You don't, again, everybody don't have to do TNR in one area. You can do something else. It's other ways to help, because I do TNR, but I need fosters all the time. I need bottle baby fosters all the time. I still would like to have adoption people that's great at adoptions to work with. So it's like, it's so many other areas to help. So even if you don't particularly like somebody, you could still be like, well, hey, check this out. We doing TNR right here. You do foster. Can you help us with some fostering or something like that? There's no point in oversaturating this area with just one thing.
Yeah.
Let's, you know,
I
let's
think,
make it, just get more. Let's
yeah.
get more help.
I think too, like, I think that people also need to realize that most people that are working within rescue are not employees. There are some that are employees, but they're volunteers. And I know, because I've heard and I've experienced it myself, where in the past, I've reached out to somebody, and this is before anybody knew who I was. So it's, now everybody knows that I'm Smish's mom. And if I help them, they're going to get blown up on the internet. So they're like, yeah, come on, but before, yeah, people were still, I'm really good at photography. So it's like people were very open to it, but to me helping. But I also know that a lot of times before somebody knows you, they might not be receptive to you. But you have to remember that, again, whatever you're thinking in your own head might not be true. Like, maybe somebody didn't respond to the message because they have a full-time job during the week, because like I said, like, people are volunteers most of the time. It's different when you go to an organization that has employees and you actually walk in the building and say, hey, I want to volunteer. And then you still have to be patient sometimes, because it's a lot of work with animals. It's so much. You never know what somebody's going on. I know that, people that I know that work within rescue, I never know where they're going to be because somebody's pulling a puppy out of the ditch,
Right.
and then this Joe Schmo's over here saying, well, they didn't answer my email. I'm going to go start my own thing. I'm going to do it on my own. They don't want my help. And it's like, no, really, they were just pulling the puppy out of the ditch, or, the kitten stuck in the pothole or whatever, And
I did that with colony cats. I was
mm,
bugging the heck out of colony cats, especially
oh,
out near Philly. And I'm bugging colony cats in their DMs like crazy. And then I start overthinking. It was like, wait a
yeah,
minute. Oh, and then I go in there to start apologizing. I'm like, Sterling, calm down. They busy. They just working with cats. I'm
right.
like, dang, did I make them mad? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, just
It all goes down though, I think, to people really wanting to help, but then I think because you have to have an organization to help with, because you need money to help animals to get their spays and neuters, to get vaccines, if they have medical issues, homeless animals, it costs a lot of money to help them, and so you can have that desire to help animals, but without working with a reputable organization, you're not, it's just going to be you by yourself, which is fine, but it's also going to be a lot of money on your own. And so that's why it's good to go to an established reputable organization that is there. And hopefully the people in the organization are being kind and open to new people. But I think a
even
lot of times people just get frustrated because they're not getting a response in a timely manner, what they think, do you know what I'm saying? It's just kind
that's what
of,
it
I think a
is.
lot of times it's, yeah.
A lot of times people want to help and they just get frustrated or impatient because you think when people
Mhm.
say, okay, I'm ready to help, I want to help, you feel like if I'm saying I want to help, that should immediately be accepted. So I think a lot of times people can take it personal because it's like, hey, I want to help, I want to help, I want to help, y'all not responding. But I think it's good to not take that personal because again, people are busy, everybody's like super busy with it. And then on top of that, like, again, I would say try to sit on the board and learn. Like, even if it's not what you think is supposed to be, you can still sit on the board or pay attention, volunteer, learn, and then see what's needed. And maybe you can, once you learn,
Yeah.
you can start your own thing like that and start something that's actually needed that they don't do versus just saying, well, they didn't want my
Right.
help. Like you said with the Greyhound
Right.
example, it's like, okay, so y'all
Yeah.
don't want my help, so I'll stand right next to y'all and start my Greyhound thing. And it's like, well, how's that helping
Right.
for real if
Right.
we right?
Yeah, it's true. Right. But then it becomes a competition when it should never be a competition. I feel this very strongly, that work for animals. It's not for you. It's not about you. It's for animals. If and there's someone else that's also working for animals, by all means, please don't, if you don't have to love each other, you don't have to be friends, but
Right.
work together for those animals. I mean, it's just the more people working together for these helpless animals, because the animals, they can't do what we can do as humans. So you can join forces with someone, and the people that are being like, oh, I don't want your help. Why not? Why
Right.
not? I
Right.
mean,
What
why not? I mean, maybe somebody's annoying and you don't want to be around them. Well, you don't have to be. Give them some kittens and go,
right,
like
right. Let them do their thing. Let them go foster. You don't have to sit there and love them. Like it's the mission.
it's the mission. It's the
It's the
mission.
mission.
But it's interesting though, because I mean, my experience with starting a nonprofit is not for that reason at all. It was just kind of, I just did it. I was just like, well, I guess if I'm going to take money, I should start a nonprofit. And then I did it. And now I'm like, oh God, but if I had known what that would feel like, I was constantly feeling stress. When you are stressed out, Sterling, when you don't know what you're stressed out about, and it's like
Right.
something weighing on you all the time. And because I'm doing all this stuff with Smush, and I'm traveling around, and I'm going places with Big Smush and showing, oh, this organization is doing this or that. It's just, I just felt like, oh, I should like, I don't know. I was always worried that I was going to do something wrong, even though I was doing all this good, but now that I don't have that, I don't even think about it. Now I'm just like, yeah, let me come with my big smush. And, I'm about to go to our local county shelter. I was just telling you about this before, our local county shelter, and do, day in the life, because county shelters have such a different, they have so many different rules and regulations other than private nonprofits.
Yeah.
And so, but anyway, and that's something that I can do, and just raise awareness, and it's fine. And I don't have to worry about any kind of anything that I'm doing wrong,
That's
that
dope.
that's not my strength. Nonprofit business organization, you have to think of a nonprofit as, it's like a business.
Oh, it
and
is.
but it's more than that. It's more than that, because you don't pay taxes. So it's just like, it's just a lot.
It
It's
is.
not for the faint of heart. And you should
Right.
probably have people on your board that are those kind of people, that are the business minded, a lot more big picture minded, that can tell you what to do. Because that's the other thing too, when you have a nonprofit, you're basically not your own anymore,
Oh no, no, you're not your
and
own.
people don't realize that.
And the thing too, like with me, my first thought with my nonprofit, everything that I was starting, it was like, okay, let me get a bunch of cat and rescue people. But you're gonna realize quick, you're gonna need some people that's not cat or rescue people. It's
Yeah.
numbers. They just
Oh
numbers in
yeah.
business like that. It comes to a point with that. Because again,
Yeah.
like Shannon, like to what you were saying, I literally, there were times where it wasn't even about, I would be afraid of giving the money away. Like I'm at a point to where, okay, I'm about to give these folks,
Oh
these
yeah.
colony feeders, a bunch of food and a bunch of money. But then it's like, oh crap, did I check the right box when I gave them that money? Like, can I give them this?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it the wrong? Am I giving it the
Yeah.
wrong way? Did I write it down? Did I classify it right when I gave it to them? It's like, oh my God, you can,
Right.
you need to have those things in order for sure, because it's important. And you will, like you say, I would walk around with just anxiety on me, because
Yeah.
I don't know, not the fact that if I'm even doing it right or wrong, I don't know if I put it under the right category.
Right. And that's stressful, because that's the thing, those things matter. And my brain is not I don't have a linear brain. I don't think like I have an artist brain. So like, I don't even think, like, when I look at paperwork, it looks like hieroglyphics to me. I
Right.
hate it. I hate anything like that. Like, I hate it. And so, but yeah, like, you check the wrong box, and then you think about it, and you're walking around like, oh, I'm going to do something wrong. But I like what you were saying before about how when you have different people working that aren't for, because we're talking about animals, but like an animal welfare organization, nonprofit, people that are more of the mindset of money, and that, like, our local, I'm going to go back to talking about the Humane Society locally. They're they're our the PR person here, her name's Margot. She's really awesome, but she, first and foremost, she's more of a she can fundraise anything, but she's so smart in that way. And yeah, she loves animals, but I think that what she brings to that organization are her skills, doing all of the the types of marketing and whatever that she does. I'm not She does so much, but it's more like money minded. Like, she's really good at networking and getting those relationships, and they do like a big thing once a year, and they raise so much money. And that's because of her, because she's not out in the ditch with the dog. Her strength is that. So, and that's really cool to see too, as far as seeing all of these organizations that have merged together in this one nonprofit. Because anytime I go there, there's very specific places for people, and people have different skills. Like, they have a whole group that does all their social media pictures now, which is amazing. That's so cool. And they didn't have that before, because they didn't have as many people. And then they have the person that does, all of their, oh my God, Smush is here.
Look at Smush.
Come on. Oh, Smush is on my shoulders right now, or on my back.
Smush is like,
Smush
what
is
are
like,
y'all talking about?
She's like, my skill is my face and my sassy personality, and I will be here to keep you in line and remind you what's important.
Smush is like, let me check out what's going on
Oh
here.
my gosh.
Talking about.
I don't even know what she's doing right now. I love that she comes into the pod closet all the
Right,
time. Every time we record, she's like, she's making sure. She's like, my name is on that. I got to come in there.
right, right. I gotta make
Oh my
sure
God.
everything. Oh, okay. Well,
You see her tail? So
yeah.
for those of you who are listening, I'm in my gay pod closet. And Smush is she's back in here with all of the clothes.
Yeah, Smush them walk in. Smush them walked in and see to check on us, make sure we doing good.
She's
Look at, oh my goodness.
Can you see her? I don't know if you
Yeah,
can see her.
I can see. Well, she just hide behind the thing now, but I can see
Yeah.
her.
Oh shit. Excuse me.
Technical
My
difficulty.
microphone. My microphone just fell down. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but that is really I really wanted to come and talk about that because I've seen that, and I'm in a right now myself personally. One of the things that I'm working on is, and I don't want to say too much, but I'm working on a grant, me being in position to help people give a grant to people that are not nonprofits. And I think that's ultimately, I do believe that's one of the things that'll help diversity. I mean, I don't think it'll fix it all, but I think that's one of the reasons that you don't see a lot of different people come in, because everything we've been talking about, they might hear some of this scary stuff first and they're done. They run away instantly. Or they don't last because of the business aspect. They get started, but because of the business aspect that they don't have or have help with, then they stop and it's out. So I wanted to talk about that because I see that a lot. And then some people just, like we've been saying, it's just jumping out there like, yo, I'm about to start my nonprofit. And it's like, hold up. So I wanted to put that out there because I did. I know I've, I've had a lot. I spent a lot of money, and I've went through a lot correcting mistakes that I didn't have to make. I
Oh
didn't have to make. So,
yes.
I definitely
Yeah.
want to, that's something that I'm working on now too, personally, that I want to help people with, because it could be tough.
Oh yeah.
Could be tough.
I lost so much money when I had my nonprofit because that was the other thing too. I was kind of like, oh, I need to put money into it, to do all of this advertising, whatever. And I was just spending my own money. And I didn't really think about it at first because at the time too, I was a dual income family, and now I'm not. So it wasn't until afterwards I was like, oh shit. I'm like, I'm like, my savings account is going down. And it's like, I'm trying to help, but again, it goes back, you have to help yourself first. And I'm like, this
Right.
isn't the right way. So now it's like anything I do now with Smush, like I can do whatever I want with it. And it's just I'm not an LLC, but I am I just any money that I take, and if I feel like donating some, sure. But the way that I volunteer is like I always have, and I'll go into the shelter and I'll use my photography skills, I'll make video, and then I'll fundraise directly for the org. And that way I'm not touching any of the money. It just didn't make sense for me to have a nonprofit. It was like, why am I raising money to just turn around and give it to the organization when I could just go, I
Let
think
them
it was
get,
just
they can
because
just
it
go
doesn't even
directly to
make
them.
sense. It
They,
doesn't even make sense now, but like I didn't know that. And I also didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. I didn't really have a mission other than I knew that I wanted to help animals, and I wanted to do it with an audience that was broad, much broader than just here in Gainesville. So I was like, well, if I'm going to raise money, I need to do it, but I just didn't realize that now, and I know I'm speaking specifically to fundraising, but like at the end of the day, the nonprofit, the reason why you're a nonprofit is it is because of money. It's not because of the things that you're doing to help animals. You can do that anywhere. And
right.
so like, if you have to remember that, you have to keep that in mind. It's like, can I do this for an existing organization that's already reputable? Make sure make sure your research, make sure that the money is going to the right place. Smush is behind me again,
Right.
making sure
Smush is
I'm
like,
giving all the
right.
correct info.
Smush is like, make sure you nail it.
Make sure you nail it. Hi, baby. But yeah, if I think that if I looking back, oh, she's on my shoulder again. Oh my God, she's always using me. She uses my body
Right,
for,
right, right.
like a cat tree all the time. I'm like, thank you, Smush.
Oh, we all
My
cat.
pleasure, my pleasure. But yeah, I just think now looking back, I know that I'm doing the same things as a volunteer that I've always wanted to do, which is make video, take pictures, spread awareness on social media. I've been doing that forever. I've been doing that for before Smush was even alive. So it's like, I think because Smush became Smush, I felt like, oh, I need to name this and I need to have it be a nonprofit. But no, I don't, I don't.
Right.
And now I feel so much freer to be able to fundraise. And and then if the organization, because a lot of these large organizations that I work with, they do have money for travel and stuff. They can fly me somewhere and then I can volunteer and use my skills and fundraise for them because I want to, because I care about it, and I just feel if I had known that before, I mean, I guess I wouldn't know it. I wouldn't know it. You
Yeah.
don't know till you know. So,
Right.
so when Sterling today, when you said you wanted to talk about, the nonprofit, like, oh, I can do it on my own. I feel, again, it feels so much better for me being able to fundraise for a big, like, I mean, I've mostly been working with Four Paws for the last couple years, and Operation Catnip. And I know that the money that I fundraise, I know it's going to the right place. And I know that I'm free to use my skills as a volunteer in the ways that they're my strengths, and I don't have to worry about money and doing something wrong because, again, my skill set is not paperwork at all. I hate it. Some people love it, and I need somebody like that in my life for like my other stuff. Like I feel like I hate it. I'm so bad at it, and
I
and 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 it's just it's stressful.
shout
And
out
then
to
it gets,
Mary
yeah,
Tan, Civvy, everybody, all my paperwork folks.
yeah.
Mr. Wall, thank you all. Yeah, because I'm not the paperwork. I'm not the
Ugh.
paperwork guy at all. And it's
No, my ex Sarah, she used to like anything like when I would have like my book sales or anything like that, like she's really good at Excel and all that. And I'm just not. I'm even Excel spreadsheet, I'm like, that looks, I hate it. Anything,
ooh,
it's almost like when I look at stuff like that, it's like does not compute. And
yeah.
then I'm like, I'm just not gonna do it. But then I get worried because I'm like, ooh, I'm like in denial. I'm just pretending like these things don't exist, And then it's like, then suddenly you wake up in the night like, I'm gonna go to jail.
All of that stuff. I'm looking at it like, is it a song? Can I pet it? Or I don't know what to do.
Can I pet it? I don't
Right.
understand. Wait, what? I don't even get that. What does that mean?
Like that's my strengths. If it's something I can pet
Oh,
or
I was
just
like, what are you
music,
talking?
then I'm good at those things. If it don't include that, then I'm like, I don't know what this is.
Is that a song that you have? Can I pet it?
That should be a song.
Maybe you should make a rap song. So Sterling and I want to know. Okay, so we're both kind of musical in different ways. So, anyone who follows me online know that every once in a while I'll break out my ukulele because I taught myself to play the ukulele during the pandemic. But anyway, and I also sing, and Sterling, he's a musician and raps and does all this stuff. We should probably make a Same Team song.
Hey, the next time we're in the same city, we're gonna have to just we're gonna have to do something. We're gonna have to try to make it happen.
Same Team, like we
Same
could have
team
that,
song.
like we can do like Same Team jam session or something.
Same team jam session on the Patreon page.
Yeah, you
Damn.
can smoke doobs there. We're you can smoke doobs there if you want.
Come on. We're gonna it's gonna be like a mini virtual Woodstock.
Oh yeah. All like peace and love and animals. Smush, Demita, Alanis will be there. Get
Right.
yeah.
I need it though, but I wanna before um before we get out of here today, I did want to say, I've had a crazy wild week last couple weeks,
You have.
last couple months. So I wanted to just send out positive vibes to everybody, let everybody know that I'm okay, that follow and support me. I recently in December I lost my aunt who raised me. That was big. I just almost like the same week lost my groundhog, Gangster Griffin, who y'all know if y'all follow me on social media, you see Gangster Griffin. And then probably like not even 2 weeks out, I just lost my grandmother. And it's been crazy. A lot of people are like, yo, why are you doing anything? I literally, I feel like I gotta stay busy. So, you know, for anybody that's like, what in the world or how in the world is he doing it? I feel like I need it. It's almost therapy for me, y'all. So I
Yeah.
appreciate this podcast and all of y'all because believe it or not, I need it. I had to stay busy. If I think if I sit still through some of the recent events, I might lose it. So I appreciate you, Shannon,
Yeah.
all of y'all out there for letting me come in and hang on the Same Team podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I even asked you today. I'm like, do you want to do it? Because it's okay if we skip. You're like, no, I need it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's been rough. And so many people have had loss after loss. And we're gonna talk about that soon too. We're gonna do an episode about loss because it affects all of us. But yeah, Sterling, I mean, like I can't believe it because last week we finished the podcast and then it was you went off to do your thing and I went off to do my thing and then it was later in the day you had texted me about Griffin
Yeah.
and I had just seen the picture of him too because I always say I'm a terrible Instagram friend because well, you understand. It's like when you're
Yeah. Yeah.
creating
You
content
running
all the
around doing
time, like we
stuff.
get very into like, it's you just can't be on there
Right.
as much. But I had just seen that picture of him and I was like, oh my God, like that groundhog is huge next to the cats. And then you had
Right.
texted me that. And then I saw that your grandma died and I was like, no, I'm like, this is terrible because I knew that you had also just lost your aunt not long ago. So, but yeah, it's just, ugh,
It's that's why I wanna we definitely gonna do
yeah,
an episode on loss because I even wanna get some I want to look into it a little more too to even see is there a connection on how animals deal with loss. Maybe we could learn something from how they deal with it because the older I get and the more I deal with loss and death like that, it's almost like you got to figure out a better way to process it. So
yeah,
I don't want to get too much into it now because we will have
yeah,
an episode on that, probably the
yeah.
next one, because that's a major topic.
It sure is. Yeah. Cause I mean, we've all experienced it. I mean, those who follow me know that I lost Candy, my Greyhound last year, and just, and like different types of losses going through divorce. That's a loss, it's just
Yeah.
lots of things. My grandmother died, we all, I mean, so many people have lost people to COVID, people are sick, people have lost people also during the pandemic and not been able to say goodbye. There's been all of us are affected. And again, bringing it back to like, because we're talking about we're people that work with animals, you have to take that into consideration also when you're working with the humans, because somebody could have just lost their, relative. Like
Right.
Sterling, like you're saying, because I saw your post about, I'm not just not responding to you. Um,
Right.
which nobody can respond all the time anyway, but yeah, you just never know what somebody else is going through ever, and what we share online is just a snapshot. So it's important to, ask people also how they really are.
Yeah.
Like, how are you really, like not just,
Don't just assume the negative.
yeah, or no, don't just look at somebody also like a, somebody that can do something for you. Like you never know what that person is going through. Maybe
Right.
there's a reason why somebody was short on the phone, or, if somebody just didn't text you back or like whatever, like you just never know what somebody's going through. Maybe they don't have the capacity or the bandwidth to even deal with
Right.
themselves,
Right. Trust me,
I've definitely felt that way
yeah,
before.
I've been there. I have
You and I always check in with each other too, because I
right.
know like I was extremely depressed last year. And I mean, and it also, it was like right after my dog died. And then it was just kind of like, fuck everything, you know? It
It's
was,
probably when you got
I
that
felt,
tattoo.
that's when I got fucked. That is when I got my fuck this shit tattoo. Cause I was just over it. I was over
Right.
everything. I was just kind of like, nothing is normal anymore. Nothing is normal anymore. There's no stability anymore. And I was just, you know, a loss affects you profoundly on the
Yeah.
inside, and it affects the way you feel and the way you are. So anyway, we're going to talk about all of that on an episode because both of us have experienced that. So I also thank those who have supported me, you know, online, and the kind comments. And you know, like, we know that even if we don't know you in person, it's, you guys all support us, and it's really appreciated because you never know what kind of comment that you leave for somebody, anybody
Right.
online. Like, you never know. Like, sometimes people have said something that either made me laugh when I needed to laugh,
Yeah.
or, you know, it just kind of went into me, and I'm like, I don't even know that person, but like,
Yeah.
but it's another human being who I'm on the earth with. And they took the time, like, so many people took the time after Candy died to reach out to me, and I
Right.
will never forget that, you know. And you know, people, and I felt too, for me personally, sometimes it's easier to be open to people when I don't have to see them in person. So it's like I can read something and I'm like, okay, I'm in this cocoon of like depression right now, but I'm reading this thing, and it made me feel better, because we all go through that sometimes and people don't realize that, I think.
I did that. I had a lot of that between my aunt Griffin, my grandmother, everything. Some of the comments, there would be some comments where it was like sometimes people will say something to you in person and you're not even in a space to
Yeah.
respond. You don't know how to respond, but sometimes
Yeah.
just reading one or
Yeah.
two comments that say something positive, it's like, wow, thanks.
I know it is. That's really interesting. That's why I'm all about social media for good, because it's like this is the way we connect now even more. Like, I've always been online. I've been, if e-girl was a thing, I would have been it when I was like, you know, 20, when AOL came out. You know, I've always been on message boards. I've always connected in that way. So I mean, and it takes me a lot of, I mean, I'm way better now to have like people, because you've been here, Sterling. I have a lot of friends in person. Like,
Yeah,
shout out Norma.
yeah.
My friend Norma, she's like my sister.
What
She
up,
lives right down
Norma?
the street. Sterling came here and we hung out. Like, I gave him the full Gainesville experience, and we like hung out downtown, and like, you know, he got to meet some of
Yeah.
my friends. But it's really, it's a lot for things that are hard to talk about sometimes. It is easier sometimes to put it online, I think, for some of us. And um I don't know. And also too, I think that when somebody relates, like, I've had a lot of people reach out that also lost a pet after I lost Candy, and they understand more than, because they've experienced it themselves. And it would just be like something that they said that I was like, wow, I never really thought about it that way, you know, that,
Right,
and
right.
this is normal to feel this way, and it just made me feel better, you know. So I don't know. So anyway, for those of us that have supported us virtually, thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's so more than likely next week because we almost dove in it today. So, but
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
gonna speak about loss. Uh,
Yeah. Oh, and shout out to the Kindred podcast. Sterling sent me that
oh
this week.
yeah,
They gave us such a nice shout out this week
yeah,
on their podcast. And again, here's somebody else doing a podcast. And we're very aligned in the way that we're talking about people and animals. And so I had actually not heard of them until I saw that they were following me, which is funny because they actually followed Smush and didn't know who I was. Because up until recently, I kind of liked it that way, you know.
right,
But
right.
I mean, unless you know me in person, I'm just kind of, I don't know. I just kind of I wasn't ready to be like, hey.
Gotta be
But
like, wait a minute, you gotta vet me.
yeah, well, because it's, you know, you opening yourself up to people being nasty, and I'm very sensitive, and I'm just like, I don't know. I wasn't ready yet, but now I am. And luckily, nobody has really been nasty. Not that many. And if you are, whatever. Same
Whatever.
team over here. You go over there.
Right, right, right.
You
It's all
know,
love.
but anyway, no, the Kindred podcast, that was super cool. I was actually, I took a walk, because remember last week I was talking about how I was going to get out and walk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've been walking and riding my bike all the time, and I'm getting an Apple Watch, so I won't have my phone with me. So I'm not inspired to like look at my phone, because
That's
you know how it is. Sometimes you go to look at one thing and then all of a sudden you're like on your phone for like an hour.
I do that so much. I get
No more.
distracted. Like, bam. Yeah.
But yeah, Sterling sent me the link to the podcast and I was like, oh, that's cool. And he's like, no, listen to it. He said they shouted us out. So I was walking home. I had gone on campus at UF where I work. And so I actually walked home. And so I ended up listening to it. I didn't realize I had my headphones with me, and I listened to it, and it just really, it's two sisters that are doing this podcast. And it warmed my heart though, because it was just kind of like, same team, you know?
Right.
So thanks, ladies. That was
Yeah,
super
shout
cool.
out to the Kendra podcast. That's those my girls, those my buddies. But that's same team, y'all. That's how we doing it.
That's how we doing it.
That's how
So
we doing it.
yeah.
So we about to ride out. I'm actually about to go to the gym because I need it. And we're gonna holler at y'all next week. More than likely, we're gonna be talking about loss. It's like I said, it's been therapy for me. We all been through it, especially during these times. So come holler at us.
Yeah.
See y'all then.
All right. See you next week.
Peace out.